then you had better think deeply about life. Life Chanuan's viewpoint on euthanasia. Xiefeng, August 26, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and translated by Care. It is extremely difficult for people to live entirely smooth lives. Only a small number of us can do this without ever suffering from diseases. Most of us either die young, are tortured to death by illnesses, die in natural disasters, or are forced to commit suicide by their emotions. Some are killed in the turmoil of war or die from starvation, thirst, exposure, car accidents, and so forth, and are unable to reach the end of their lives naturally and satisfactorily. The most ideal way to end one's life's journey is to go to sleep in good health but not wake up. Another way is to use the Chanyuan meditation. That is, to choose one's day and time of death and then enter meditation to end their journey in this world. Neither method is easy for the public to grasp. Sleeping without waking up is a method that requires a great deal of blessings, and the Chanyuan meditation method requires long-term self-refinement and self-cultivation. So, is there an ideal way for the general public to meet their end? Yes, it is called euthanasia. The general interpretation of euthanasia is to stop medical treatment for patients who cannot be cured so that the patient can die comfortably. Life Chanuan's explanation is, anyone who does not want to continue their life, but wants to end it voluntarily should be allowed to do so. People should have the right to decide their own life paths. In fact, most people are kidnapped by their reality, the environment, or by their relatives. They live passively, not actively. We should offer the right to choose and decide their own life's ending to everyone. Anyone who has reached the age of 18, despairs of life, and is willing to end theirs should be offered the option to be euthanized. Regardless of their situation, as long as someone still wants to live, regardless of their age or physical condition, they should be treated, given energy, and the hope to live. How much time is enough for someone to live? A century? A millennium? The truth is that for most people, no amount of time is ever enough. Immortality is everyone's wish. However, life is a short journey of life in the mortal world. In the end, everyone has to part with life. No matter how much they love being alive, ending it is inevitable, and since farewells are inevitable, it is only a matter of time before everyone will sooner or later have to say goodbye. We associate closely with our friends and relatives, but no matter how close our relationships are with them, no matter how much we like them, or how much they want to stay with us, we will eventually have to say goodbye to them and leave. We cannot stay with anyone forever, so since we have to leave them, we should find the most suitable time to do so. Is euthanasia not a kind of farewell? Why bother preventing anyone from leaving? It is better to arrange everything leisurely and give a decent goodbye in a cool and ready manner than to end one's life in a hurry with regrets, remorse, anxiety, and fear, without saying goodbye to those of whom we care. Of course, the vast majority of people would not agree with this Life Chanuan view of euthanasia, and only those in extreme despair would accept it gracefully. Someone might ask, should we euthanize someone who is 19 years old, healthy, and in the prime of their life with a clear mind and a bright future? It would be the biggest joke ever, but no laughing matter. It would be very cruel. Of course, many people believe that the implementation of euthanasia would be murder if it were not only voluntary but also agreed upon by relatives. But hold on a moment. I have a question. Roughly 1 million people in the world end their lives annually. How many of their relatives have signed on to and agreed with those decisions? Of course not many. So why would anyone need anyone else's consent if they are willing to end their life? If people could only do this with the consent of their relatives, then few would ever be able to. Of course, this kind of euthanasia requires legislation and a national convention. Otherwise, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to implement. I want to say that we can hardly imagine how many people in this world are living in extreme pain and despair. Many feel tired of life and do not want to continue on, but they have to bite the bullet and continue to live because they are kidnapped. Many others are in pain and are being tortured to death, such as those who are lying in hospital beds for long periods of time while incurable. They need to decide for themselves whether they are willing to accept euthanasia and should not require the consent of any relatives. Now that technology is developed, it is possible to video record the patient's words and wishes. In other words, anyone who voluntarily accepts euthanasia can speak their own mind and record it in an environment in which they are free from any duress, coercion, or kidnapping. Without this legally binding video, euthanasia would not be implemented. If a young person wanted to end their life, their relatives might call them selfish, but who is really more selfish, the young one or the relatives? Actually, I have thought about this. If Life at Genuine were to implement euthanasia and hospice care, at least half of the people who want to commit suicide would give up those thoughts, and that number might be saved every year. By the way, it is better to deal with the people after euthanasia in accordance with the arrangement of the Life at Genuine funeral system. The more we open up, the easier and simpler things become. The more restrictive we are, the more difficult and complex they become. 认识自己的一道法门. One way to know yourself. Xiefeng, July 6, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. It is fairly easy to understand others, but more difficult to know ourselves. However, when we do not understand ourselves correctly, our lives will be lost, stepped over, and frustrated everywhere. Recently, through my work, I found a method to learn about myself, and you are invited to try it as well. To know ourselves, we must first establish a reference point and compare ourselves to it. Then we can better understand ourselves. Over the past 3 years, I have operated a small hotel in BC, Canada. The nature of the hotel is my 3 sets of large, medium, and small towels, sheets, and quilts are pure white. So once soiled, it becomes next to impossible to restore their original appearances. In contrast, the better one's financial situation is, the cleaner and neater they leave their rooms, and the better they communicate and get along with others. All in all, those who messed things up and could not communicate well were lower middle-class workers, while the more civilized were more intellectual. My conclusion is that a person's situation reflects their education, self-cultivation, and self-restraint, as well as their knowledge, realm, and pattern. Do you want to understand and know yourself? Then look at your current situation because it represents you. If you are very poor, have few close friends and confidants, have trouble getting help from others, and your life is rough and difficult, there must be something wrong with you. And it is not because society is unfair or others are short on love. In Life at Genuine, there is one value. The world is faultless. All faults lie within us. Any trials and tribulations that we encounter are reflections of our own consciousnesses. If we want to live a good life, then we must start by transforming ourselves. This is the building of our own soul garden, as advocated by Life at Genuine. Never resent or blame others or your society. There is another phenomenon. That is, those who are good at communicating with others have relatively easy and satisfactory lives, but those who are not have more difficult and miserable ones. One can understand and know themselves from the social circle in which they interact with others. If there are no knowledgeable people in your social circle with big views, it shows that you are a commoner and it will be difficult for you to have a bright future. From this analysis, we can derive a useful life experience. That is, that one should always put the improvement of one's education, knowledge, self-cultivation, self-restraint, realm, and pattern first, not rushing to make money, success, to become the best, to glorify your ancestors, or to curry favor with rich and powerful people and celebrities. If you are excellent, then those correspondingly good things will come to you. But if you are not, then do not detest the flies around you. Let yourself be a flower. Butterflies will find you. By extension, when you are faced with natural and man-made disasters such as epidemics, floods, turmoil, and the like, do not blame the greatest creator for being unjust or people for being unkind. All these things are reflections of your human mind and consciousness because you caused and invited them upon yourself. If you want the weather to be favorable, the world to be peaceful, and everyone to be happy and satisfied, then you should first learn to be a decent person, learn how to communicate, always be wary of your thoughts and intentions, and make sure that they are not evil. If you have more negative, passive, and pessimistic emotions, then your lives will become harsher and the world will continue to worsen. Above is a basic method of how to understand and know oneself. The core of this method is the root, quality. That is, if we want everything to be satisfactory, then we must change our roots. Do not envy those whose roots are bad but very flashy. If one's position cannot match their virtue, then disasters will befall them. Flaunt with bad roots, and you will see the results. They must include disasters. 影响人生的8个外在隐形因素 8 invisible external factors influencing our lives. Xiefeng, May 9th, 2020. Translated by Q and edited by Care. We should be aware of these 8 mysterious and invisible factors that influence our lives. Feng Shui, geomantic omens, gods and deities, grievances and curses of others, ancestral virtues and sins, solar radiation, socio-ecological environments, destiny trajectories, mathematics. Let us examine each one of them in greater detail. Feng Shui mainly refers to one's geographical and atmospheric environments, the veins flowing underground, the humidity or dryness of the climate, whether the air is fresh and its flow is smooth and unobstructed, whether there is sufficient light and the geomagnetic field is comfortable and pleasant, as well as the water quality and the chemical elements contained within, and whether it is alkaline or acidic, and so on. It is really not easy to find a perfect geomantic omen place. The best way to avoid long-term damage to yourself by certain unfavorable factors is to change your living space often. Most chronic diseases are caused by feng shui, and they can be cured after changing one's environment. For example, if people with arthritis who live in humid areas can relocate themselves to places with drier humidities for 3 to 5 years, their arthritis can heal completely. People in my hometown in the thousand-year world never get sick for many reasons, but one of them is that people change their living environments often. This is why I emphasize that Life Echanuan Celestials must move to another home every 3 years. When there are 256 homes, new oasis for life, on the earth, it will be hard to get sick for a lifetime if you relocate yourself every 3 years. Affection of gods and deities. Everything has spirituality. What we call heaven gods, mountain gods, water gods, earth gods, and so forth are actual gods and deities, and if we worship them in our hearts, then we will have no bad luck. For example, if you want to climb a mountain, pray to it and ask its God for protection, and you will not fall or injure yourself during your climb. If you pray to a river god or deity when crossing its river, then you will cross it safely. If you soothe and comfort the trees, flowers, insects, birds, and beasts where you live, then you will face no misfortune. Other people's grievances and curses are very harmful to life. If you do not believe me, then you should live among people who are full of grievances. It will not only make people lose their fighting spirits, courage, and confidence in their pursuit of better lives, but it will also cause people to become depressed, get sick, and have nightmares. Curses are even more powerful. They are silent harm from their hearts and invisible thought powers. It is also a curse to secretly cut a ground vein or manipulate an ancestor's grave. Curses will lead to the declines and extinctions of families and nations. They will even lead to sudden disasters, so it is best to remain cognizant. Ancestral virtue and sin karma have great impacts on life. An ancestor's virtuous karma can help their descendants to flourish and prosper, but their sin karma can lead them to wither and decline. Therefore, whether our lives are smooth or full of ups and downs, we must consult whether the karma that our ancestors created for us is virtuous or sinful. After learning the answer, we can find a way to remedy it. Otherwise, the trajectory of our lives will not change. Solar radiation. People whose ancestors lived in or near the tropics tend to have darker skin, while those whose ancestors lived closer to either of Earth's poles have lighter skin. This is caused by the amount of ultraviolet solar radiation that is present. We need to be exposed to the right amount for proper vitamin D production, neither too much nor too little. The amount varies with our latitude, and we can often change it to alleviate the damage of insufficient or excess ultraviolet solar radiation. The socio-ecological environment is crucial to the formation of human personalities and consciousnesses. It includes factors such as culture, beliefs, conventions, customs, overall values, and the outlooks on life, and the universe. If you are enclosed in a bad socio-ecological environment for a long time, you will become incapable of distinguishing fragrance from stench. It will be hard for you to know that there are mountains beyond mountains and skies above skies, and you will live very ignorantly. The trajectory of fate is an invisible binding force created by people's previous lives' merits and demerits, as well as an invisible manipulating force. The 18 unmanageable factors of life are an invisible arrangement of the trajectory of fate. Why am I so lucky or unlucky? Why have I met such a noble or unreasonable person? And other such questions are established arrangements along the trajectory of fate. To change that, to resolve or continue your trajectory of fate, you must self-cultivate and self-refine. The influence of mathematics is mysterious. Symmetry and proportion are very important. To be symmetrical and proportional, you must work hard on the math. The figure of the golden section looks beautiful, and this is caused by perfect symmetry and the most appropriate proportions. Symmetry and proportion must follow math strictly. Math is the principle of numbers. The more symmetrical things are, the longer their lifespans, and the more symmetrical a life is, the healthier it is. Once the math falls out of balance, a life will quickly decay and die, and it also becomes easier to suffer from nature. Therefore, how high a house should be, how big its doors and windows should be, how far or close it should be to the neighbor's house, how many sets of clothes and shoes should be stored in its closets, how high its tables, stoves, and windows should be, on which dates you can go out for trips or important meetings should be held, on which date the construction of the house should be started, how many plates, forks, and chopsticks should a family have, how big your house should be, and so on, are all in the math. If the math is suitable, then everything will go well, but if it is not, then everything will go against your will. There are 64 factors that affect people. The permutations and combinations of them are astronomical figures. As a person, it is hard to attend to one thing without neglecting another. The simplest method available is to follow the way of the greatest creator, the path of Life Genuine. 雪峰与年轻人聊聊. Xiefeng chats with young people. Xiefeng. October 22nd, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. After more than 60 years of springs, summers, autumns, and winters, I have some insightful life experiences to share with young people. They may not be correct, but they are just for reference. Life is the perception and experience of life in the human world. The richer that experience is, the deeper its perception is. The deeper that perception is, the clearer its truth is. Therefore, life is about experiences, and only those experiences form the wealth that life possesses. Some of those experiences are frustration, disappointment, failure, despair, love, friendship, kinship, sex, holy love, the spring, summer, autumn, winter, wind, clouds, rain and snow endowed by nature, joy, freedom, happiness, satisfaction, sacredness, solemnity, beauty, infinity, the coming and leaving of predestined relationships on the trajectory of life, and the cycles of causes and effects. When you are young, do not pursue vanity and trends, be engulfed by the trends of the times. Compare yourself with others, or pursue material possessions, such as buying real estate, cars, expensive consumer goods, high-end supplies, and so forth. If you focus on material abundance and possessions, then you are heading towards decadence, corruption, depravity, pain, troubles, and death. Rather, you should spend your time and energy on learning scientific knowledge and skills, how to behave, the teachings of gods, Buddhas, and celestials, and how to enhance the value of your life. Do not study metaphysics or enter religious groups, political groups, or various cultivation groups because they are all problematic. Especially do not learn anything about magical powers, special abilities, or spell powers. I do not even advocate the premature learning of Buddhism, Taoism, or divine law, let alone supernatural powers. Learning is to enrich one's understanding and to improve the quality of their life, not to be an official or make money, glorify and illuminate one's ancestors, or to be outstanding, let alone to build your good fame forever, but to experience life more deeply and to experience fun and wit of life.